Welcome to the Kitsap Publishing Deep Dive podcast with myself, Jack Bennett, and Emily Waters. Join us as we explore books, current events, history, politics, health, and more. Let's dive in.
All right, so today we're doing something a little bit different for our deep dive.
Different good or different bad?
Well, hopefully different good.
I like different good.
Yeah, so you send over some excerpts from Hardwired and Ready to Go by David D. Seidel.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got like the table of contents.
Oh, wow.
Even like the about the author section.
So we're going deep.
We're going deep, and it's interesting because it's more than just like reading a book jacket, you know?
Right.
It's like getting a glimpse into this man's life.
It's like we're getting the blueprint to how he was made.
Yeah, and it's and what a life it is.
Yeah.
Like near-death experiences,
Wow.
family health challenges,
Mm-hmm.
intense spiritual encounters. Like
it's all in there.
it's all in here.
I love it.
So think of this as a deep dive into David Seidel's personal journey
Okay.
with all of its twists and turns and how his faith played a role through it all.
I like it.
So to set the stage, his story starts in Spokane, Washington. So imagine growing up in like a working class family,
Right.
dealing with, you know, those typical childhood insecurities,
Sure.
but also being surrounded by religion from a young age.
Like a foundation.
Yeah, like that foundation that set the stage for everything that came later.
Absolutely. And one event in particular really shook things up for him, a tragic accident involving his friend Ed.
This is the accidental shooting.
Yeah.
Heavy stuff.
It was, a turning point for David, forcing him to confront questions of life and death and faith at a very young age, which ultimately led him to dedicate his life to Christ.
That's a huge decision, especially for someone so young.
It was, and, that commitment was put to the test almost immediately when he decided to attend Bible college.
Okay.
Talk about taking a leap of faith,
Right.
financial struggles,
Yeah.
even a terrifying brush with death due to carbon monoxide poisoning from his old car.
That 52 Plymouth, right?
A 52 Plymouth, that's right.
He talks about it with this mix of like fondness and terror. Like it was held together with good intentions and like a prayer or two.
That's a great way to put it.
But those early struggles, those moments of uncertainty,
Yeah.
they actually seem to strengthen his faith.
Right, because he's being tested.
Yeah, he talks about always feeling this sense of divine guidance, like there was a higher power looking out for him, even when things were tough.
Like there was a plan even when he couldn't see it.
Yeah, it's like he was already being hardwired to something bigger than himself even back then.
Exactly. And that connection only deepened as he navigated college life, met his future wife, Jan,
Oh, yeah.
and even had some, shall we say, memorable encounters with college traditions.
Okay, what kind of traditions are we talking about here?
Picture this. David's walking Jan back to her dorm one evening, and out of nowhere, this group of upperclassmen ambush him with peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Yeah.
It was a hazing ritual.
Okay, so was this like a one-time thing or?
Oh no, it escalated from there.
Oh, no.
David describes a whole series of increasingly messy incidents until the administration finally stepped in and shut it down.
Oh, gosh.
It sounds like it got pretty wild.
I can only imagine.
But even with all the peanut butter shenanigans,
Right.
David's faith continued to grow. And it's during this time we see the importance of prayer really taking root in his life.
Okay.
He talks about praying for guidance, for strength,
Yeah.
and especially for his growing family.
And this is where we meet his son, Christopher Wright.
Yes.
David talks about the joy and anxieties of becoming a father for the first time.
Oh, absolutely. And he shares how prayer played a significant role during Christopher's birth, a moment that further solidified his belief in a loving and watchful God.
It's like each experience, each challenge was adding another layer to his understanding of faith.
You're picking up on something really important here. It's not just about blind faith for David. It's about actively seeking a connection with something larger than himself, something that gives his life meaning and purpose.
And this search for meaning eventually leads him back to the Pacific Northwest, right?
Exactly.
He talks about feeling a pull to return to his roots, to serve in a community that felt familiar and welcoming.
He starts working with rural churches, connecting with people who are facing their own struggles and doubts. And there's this incredibly moving story about a truck driver named Don
Okay.
who finds faith after a near-fatal accident.
Wow.
It's a powerful example of how David's experiences, both the joyful and the painful, shaped his approach to ministry.
So he's taking all those hardwired lessons from his own life and using them to connect with others to help them find their own path to faith.
That's exactly it.
But even back in familiar territory, it sounds like life had a few more surprises in store for David and his family.
Oh, definitely. In fact, that's where things start to get really intense. Buckle up, because we're about to enter a chapter filled with unexpected challenges, dramatic events, and moments that truly test the strength of their faith.
This is where the ready to go part of the title really kicks in, isn't it?
You could say that.
I'm ready to hear what happens next. Okay, so we left off with David Seidel back in the Pacific Northwest, working in rural ministry,
Right.
building a life with his family.
Yeah.
But it sounds like things are about to take a pretty dramatic turn.
We're entering a period where health challenges become a recurring theme
Okay.
for David and his family. And what's fascinating is how their faith becomes this anchor,
Right.
this source of strength as they navigate these incredibly difficult times.
And the first big test comes when his son, Chris, who was just 6 years old at the time,
6 years old, wow.
starts experiencing some really strange symptoms, like he's talking about seeing shooting stars in broad daylight,
Oh my gosh.
complaining of these terrible headaches,
Yeah.
having trouble with, basic tasks.
That's scary.
Yeah, it must have been terrifying for David and his wife, Yan.
Can't even imagine.
They initially thought it might be a brain tumor,
Right.
but a CAT scan revealed something even more unexpected. A bleed in Chris's brain. He had suffered a pediatric stroke.
A stroke at 6 years old.
Yeah. I can't even imagine what they must have been going through.
It was a truly harrowing experience.
Yeah.
And, this event really solidified the family's belief in the power of prayer and, showed them the strength of their community.
Oh, wow.
The entire church rallied around them,
Yeah.
offering support, lifting them up in prayer.
It's amazing how, in times of crisis, a community can come together like that.
Absolutely. It's like a living embodiment of that hardwired connection David talks about.
Yeah, but as if dealing with Chris's stroke wasn't enough, they were also about to face another challenge, one that would put their faith to the test in a whole new way.
Oh boy, what else could happen?
Yeah, what else could happen, right?
Remember, we're talking about the Pacific Northwest in the early 1980s?
Okay.
So picture this. David and his family are driving back from a trip to Spokane when, out of nowhere, the sky starts to darken.
No, don't tell me Mount St. Helens.
You got it.
Wow.
They were driving right into the path of the eruption.
Oh, God.
Ash began falling like snow.
I've seen the pictures.
Visibility dropped to almost zero, and the whole world seemed to be plunged into chaos.
Can you imagine the emotions they must have felt
It was terrifying.
during that eruption?
David describes his wife and children crying,
Oh, my goodness.
urging him to turn around, and the feeling of utter helplessness as they struggled to navigate through the darkness and falling ash. But just when hope seemed lost, a single red taillight appeared through the swirling ash.
It's like a scene from a movie.
It really is.
A beacon of hope in the midst of all that chaos.
Exactly. They follow that taillight.
Wow.
And the large truck it belonged to all the way to safety.
It makes you wonder
Oh, it does.
if it was just coincidence or divine intervention.
Absolutely. And for David, it was yet another confirmation that they were being watched over, guided through even the most difficult of circumstances.
Wow. It's one thing to have faith in a higher power, but to actually experience those moments of protection,
Right.
that must have been incredible.
It was a turning point for him.
Yep.
This experience, along with Chris's recovery, really solidified their belief that God had a plan for them, even amidst the chaos.
But it sounds like the chaos wasn't over yet. He mentions other trials, like his son Shane breaking his wrist, financial struggles that stretched their resources thin, even a seemingly endless string of car troubles.
It's true. Life kept throwing curveballs their way.
Right.
But it's interesting. Even in those smaller, everyday challenges,
Yeah.
David's faith never wavered. He saw these trials as opportunities for growth, for learning to rely on something greater than himself.
It's like he was developing a spiritual muscle, strengthening his resilience with each obstacle he overcame.
That's a great way to put it, and it's a theme that runs throughout his entire story.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from the tough stuff.
Right.
He acknowledges the doubts, the fears, the moments when he questioned everything.
Yeah.
But he always comes back to that core belief that he's not alone, that he's hardwired to a source of strength that can carry him through anything.
And that strength was about to be tested again this time with his daughter, Heather.
Oh, yes. Heather's story is a powerful reminder of how quickly life can change.
Yeah.
Shortly after the birth of her fourth child,
Hmm.
she experienced a sudden and terrifying heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
It turned out to be a rare condition called SCAD, or spontaneous coronary artery dissection, where the arteries in her heart were literally tearing.
I've heard of that it's incredibly serious, especially for someone so young.
It was a life-or-death situation. Heather needed emergency surgery, and there were moments when her survival was truly in doubt.
Wow.
But once again, David and his family turned to prayer, relying on their faith to guide them through the darkness. And against all odds, Heather pulled through.
Mm-hmm.
She underwent a successful quadruple bypass
Wow.
and went on to make a full recovery.
It's like every time they faced a challenge, their faith deepened, their connection to something larger than themselves grew stronger.
Exactly. And it's a pattern we see again and again throughout David's story.
Yeah.
But the biggest test of their faith was yet to come.
Oh no, what now?
John and his wife began a 27-year battle with a brain tumor.
27 years.
27 years?
It's almost unimaginable. What kind of tumor was it?
It was a chordoma, a rare type of tumor located near her brainstem.
Okay.
Fortunately, it wasn't spreading to the other parts of her body, but it was still a constant threat, a shadow hanging over their lives for decades.
So not just one surgery, one moment of crisis, but a long, drawn-out battle that demanded incredible strength and resilience.
You got it. David describes the initial diagnosis, the emotional roller coaster of hoping for the best but preparing for the worst.
Yeah.
He talks about the multiple surgeries Jan underwent, the impact on her vision, even an aneurysm scare and a fainting episode involving their granddaughter.
It's hard to fathom the emotional toll that must have taken on their family.
It was a long and difficult journey, filled with uncertainty and moments of despair. But even in the darkest of times, their faith shone through.
I'm sensing a theme here. It's like their faith wasn't just about believing in miracles. It was about finding the strength to keep going, to find meaning and purpose even in the midst of suffering.
You're absolutely right. And that's a powerful message for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
That even when we're facing our own challenges, our own personal mountains to climb, we can tap into that hardwired connection to something greater than ourselves, something that can give us the strength to keep moving forward.
And speaking of moving forward, it sounds like David's own health journey was about to take center stage.
That's right. We're about to enter a chapter where David faces his own mortality, his own brush with the unknown.
Okay.
And it's in this crucible of experience that his faith is refined, his understanding of life and death transformed.
I'm ready to dive into this last part of his story.
Let's do it.
We followed David Seidel through a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
A son's stroke, surviving a volcanic eruption, a daughter's heart crisis, and his wife Jan's long battle with a brain tumor.
Right.
But you mentioned that David himself was also facing a health challenge.
Yeah, so while Jan's undergoing proton therapy for her tumor, David starts experiencing these subtle but persistent signs that something's not quite right with his own body. He was getting short of breath easily, feeling fatigued, the kind of symptoms that can really sneak up on you.
It's like this unspoken burden he carried alongside Jan's ordeal.
Absolutely, a heavy weight to bear for sure.
So did he know right away what was wrong?
Well, he went through a series of tests, EKG, heart scan, even a cardiac catheterization.
Oh, wow.
And turns out there were significant blockages in his heart arteries.
Oh, no.
Surgery was inevitable.
Quadruple bypass surgery while his wife is battling a brain tumor?
Yeah.
I can only imagine the stress and anxiety.
It was a difficult time for sure. But what's striking is how David, even amidst these incredibly challenging circumstances, continues to find solace in his faith.
Right.
He talks about the conversations he had with doctors, the decision-making process, even the unexpected rescheduling of his surgery right before Thanksgiving.
Oh, man. Having major surgery during the holidays. That's rough. Did his family manage to pull together?
They did. His son Shane flew in from California to be with him, and their church community stepped up to help with transportation and other needs,
Another example of that hardwired connection.
Exactly.
That sense of community and support that carried them through so many trials.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not meant to go through tough times alone.
But you mentioned something about a profound experience David had during his recovery, this tunnel vision encounter.
Yes, and this is where things get really interesting. So while he's recovering in the hospital, David has this incredibly vivid experience, something he describes as being more like a yellowish closet than a traditional tunnel.
A yellowish closet. That's a curious image. What did he see inside this closet?
He describes ascending stairs,
Okay.
approaching this brilliant sky filled with stars, and then encountering Jesus himself.
A face-to-face with Jesus. What was that encounter like?
David simply uttered the word help. And in that moment, he felt this overwhelming sense of understanding and compassion emanating from Jesus. And then he was told, "You have come far, but I'm sending you back to help your wife."
It's like he was given a second chance.
A renewed purpose?
A clear mission to support Jan in her ongoing battle.
Yeah.
Did this experience have a lasting impact on him?
Absolutely. David describes feeling this warmth flowing through his chest, a sudden surge of strength and energy, almost as if the encounter wasn't just spiritual, but also deeply physical.
So he recovers from surgery,
All right.
goes back home, and then what? Did he jump right back into caregiving mode?
He did, but with a newfound sense of strength and clarity.
Yeah.
He even shares some humorous anecdotes about his recovery process.
Really?
Like this little game he played with his granddaughter, who's a pharmacist, involving Bismarck juice.
Bismarck juice. Okay, I got to hear about this Bismarck juice. It sounds like he managed to find moments of joy even amidst all the challenges.
Yeah, exactly. It's like his faith gave him this ability to find light, even in the darkest of times. And remember, this was all happening while Jan was still going through her own grueling treatments. They were both running their own marathons, supporting each other every step of the way.
It's a beautiful testament to the power of love and commitment,
Yeah.
of facing adversity together side by side. But how did Jan ultimately fare in her battle with the brain tumor?
Well, here's the good news.
Okay,
Jan's proton therapy treatments were successful.
that's fantastic.
Her tumor showed signs of shrinking, and she started to regain some of the strength and vitality she'd lost over the years. It was a hard-won victory, but a victory nonetheless.
It sounds like their unwavering faith, their resilience, and the strength of their community played a huge role in their journey.
Absolutely.
But what about David's experience?
Right.
Did he ever share his tunnel vision encounter with others?
He did. He talks about giving presentations, even participating in Zoom meetings to share his story and the message of hope it carried. He even collaborated with his son Shane, who's an artist, to create a visual representation of the experience. First, a sketch, then a full-blown oil painting.
It's like he was transforming his experience into art, finding a way to connect with others on a deeper level and inspire them with his story.
Exactly. And as his book comes to a close, David reflects on the aftermath of both his and Jan's health journeys. And he emphasizes that their faith wasn't about blindly hoping for miracles. It was about actively seeking a connection with something larger than themselves, finding strength and guidance through prayer, and trusting that even amidst uncertainty, there's a higher power at work in their lives.
It's not just about believing, it's about actively engaging with your faith, seeking that connection and letting it guide you through life's ups and downs.
And in the end, he leaves us with this thought-provoking question. What are our own hardwired connections? What people, beliefs, or experiences provide us with strength and guidance when life throws its inevitable curveballs?
It challenges us to look inward, to identify those sources of strength and support that help us navigate life's complexities.
Right.
And it reminds us that even in the face of adversity, there's always hope, always a reason to keep going.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into David Seidel's incredible life story, we encourage you to reflect on those hardwired connections in your own life. Remember the power of faith, resilience, and community, and never underestimate the human spirit's ability to find meaning and purpose, even in the most challenging of circumstances.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep diving deep.
Thank you for listening to the Kitsap Publishing Deep Dive Podcast. Emily Waters and I will see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.